Straight species. This is Thuja occidentalis, which is number 1134, otherwise known as the eastern white cedar. Native.
Is this the one?
Very common. Sorry?
Is this the one that the natives made a tea for the pioneers to prevent scurvy?
Yes. Yep.
Nicknamed Tree of Life.
Is it?
I heard that name because it prevented all the scurvy from dying.
High in vitamin C. Yeah. They could have had the sumac tea as well. Very common plant. And as I said earlier, it grows in either wet soil, so that the actual feet can be right into the water and the swamps to the point that it makes a pancake root system. And you know, after severe windstorms, you can often find them blown over in the bush with a whole root mass coming up. Or they can grow on dry land, and this is very dry up here. But fortunately for us at Fancho, when they built the parking lots, they put all the topsoil here. So this is growing on a bank of topsoil. So it's growing on relatively good topsoil. They can be really quite long-lived. I have one at my house. My house is built in 1841. I probably have a cedar there that's at least 120 years old. Trunks on it like this. The wood is very high in tannin, so that means it's very rot resistant. So you'll see cedar shakes, cedar shingles, cedar fence posts, very common.
The white cedar fence posts.
Yeah. So very multi-purpose. You know, cedar split rail fencing, etc. So a lot of purposes in that regard. This is not typically the cedar that cedar closets are made out of. That's usually made out of Juniperus virginiana, which is called the eastern red cedar, which is not really a cedar, it's a juniper. We have one at the back of the closet. So when we do junipers, we're going to go for a long walk, because we've only got one of those at the back. But you see,
this is the most common cedar then?
Yeah, this is the most common. So this is all up through Flesherton. It's everywhere. Everywhere up there. It's a kind of a dull green, kind of more of a brownish tinge in the winter. Right, it'll go a little fresher green in the spring, but not much. You can see the cones here. Cedar waxwings love this. They feed on the seed, so you'll see flocks of them wherever we've got this plant growing. It's often multi-stemmed like this. It's rarely that you will find a single stem plant, and can be upwards of about 20 meters. So it can be quite a big plant. Right. Very fibrous root system. So if you're digging around it, you'll find that the roots are right close to the surface, and they're very fibrous.
So are they easily susceptible to stress then, with construction or damage?
Well, they would be susceptible if you're going to dig around them, because they got a lot of the roots
More so than
close.
others because of the fibers?
Yeah, because most of the roots are right near the surface. Right. But uses in the landscape, windbreaks, naturalization projects. You can use it as hedges, although it takes a lot of work. So you can see what I mean when you're using this as a hedge as opposed to something like holmstrup or pyramidalis, right? It's a very open plant. So you need to get them very young and culture them and shear them in the fields to get them to thicken up, and then use them as hedges. So not the best for a hedging material, although I have seen it to great effect. Niagara Park's Botanical Gardens has a very long hedge that was planted over 100 or 70 years ago, I guess, and they sucker or prune it. It's one of my jobs as a student, was to sucker or prune it, and it's quite a thick, dense hedge, but it's absolute nightmare to maintain, and it's really quite wide as well. So you're not going, you're going to take up a lot more room putting in a hedge than you would with a cultivar. Remember, they're not salt tolerant.
What's the growth rate like?
Growth rate's fairly fast on these. Well, fairly.
The wood's terribly soft.
Yeah, the wood's soft, but it's high in tannin, right? So it prevents it rot. So it's about, what have we got there? 15 centimeters.
Yeah.
15 centimeters this year. So not bad. Not bad. It can be very long-lived. The biggest problem with them affecting their viability age-wise is they get damaged, and then once the trunks get really big, they get hollow. So when you're cutting fence posts and stuff, you're always cutting, these are almost perfect, maybe a few more years for fence posts. But beyond that, they get a hollow center. The pith actually deteriorates, so you get a hollow center. So they start to fall apart at that point.